So the season review for the Queensland Reds, I had a look at the Sunwolves the other day. It was kind of a middling review. I had a look at the Blues yesterday. And yeah, just in terms of like a team's trajectory, you feel like the Blues have been going down. And despite their finish of 13th with a record of 6 wins and 10 losses, and despite some of the stuff I'm going to say here, I still feel like the Reds are kind of on the right track. Now, it may not seem that way when I say some of these stats and stuff, but Brad Thorn's come in. The Reds have been in kind of a quagmire for a while, been going nowhere. They've decided to put faith in new coach Brad Thorn. Sorry, I do not have any Reds gear, but I figure Brad Thorn is a former All Black, so I'll put the All Blacks gear on. They've given him kind of power to just do what he wants. He's kind of cleaned house, gotten rid of players he doesn't want, he doesn't think fit his plan, and he's putting a lot of faith in some young guys. So, yeah, we'll start with the good. Obviously, when you think Reds this season, you think that scrum. Now, scrum stats are a bit funny. I think the lowest team, 15th, has a 95% success rate. The Crusaders apparently have a worse scrum than like the Highlanders and the Hurricanes if you look at the scrum stats. So I don't put too much stock into those scrum stats. The Reds have got a pretty good scrum. When they were able to get dominance over teams, they would just be able to piggyback their way up the field with penalties. So when they weren't able to get scrum dominance, they did struggle. But that scrum is a huge weapon for the Reds, and they used it to good effect. If you look at just pure stats, their pick and drive stats are first. Average number of pick and drives per game, the Reds are your #1 team. That kind of speaks to the way they're playing. Brad Thorn, as a player, he wasn't a flashy player. He was a grit and determination player, cleaning out of breakdowns, getting line-out ball from time to time, putting in big hits, and picking and driving. And that's the way he sees his team playing. In terms of penalties won against penalties conceded, they were 6th for penalties won and 11th for penalties conceded. So not quite at the top, not quite at the bottom, but on both like kind of good sides of the ledger for winning penalties. And a lot of that comes down to their scrum. For handling errors, they were 14th out of 15. So that kind of links to the way that they play. They're not trying stupid, risky passes all the time, but it also means they're on the more conservative side, so they're less likely to cut teams to bits. And in terms of building 7 or more phases, they were 4th. So there's a lot of safe, forward-driven, conservative rugby, but effective. I mean, still you finish 13th. There's room for improvement, but that's like the stats kind of reflect how they play. Now you look at some other stats. Points conceded, points scored, they were 14th. So they only scored more points than the Blues this season. But again, that kind of reflects the style they play. Same with run meters, 14th, offloads, 14th. Yeah, those kind of just back up the fact that they don't play really expensive rugby. They're not looking to make a heap of offloads or get heaps of line breaks, and they're not going to clock up the run meters. What is a bit concerning, and is probably where part of their season went the wrong side of the table, their line-out wins were 13th out of 15. Now, if you're going to play conservative, your set piece needs to be on song. The scrum was not bad, pretty good. The line-out, 13th out of 15, is not ideal. Kick percentage, 74%, which is good enough for 12th. Again, if you're going to play conservative, you need to have a radar boot kicker. And it's interesting they have one, but he didn't play that much. Tackling, and this is also a problem. They are 3rd for making tackles, which obviously reflects the fact that they didn't have the ball for a lot of the game. But missed tackles, they are 1st. Run meters conceded, they are 2nd. Advantage line conceded, they are 1st. And yellow cards, they are 1st, equal. So that's kind of where things need to improve. Like, they've got the scrum. If they can get a better line out, if they can get a better kicker, and if they can just defend a bit more, they'll be a harder team to beat. Like, it's all well and good to play conservative, but if you're letting in too many tries, you're not going to be able to win in threes. Now, you've got to take a lot of this into consideration because they're playing a really young squad. When you look at their They're players who played their most games. You got Paying Amosa, he's 22. Douglas, he was second for number of games played for the Reds. He is 29. He's kind of a veteran, but he's leaving. Rodder's 21. JP Smith is 28, so he's a bit of experience. Tupou's 22. Dalgunu's 23. Karevi's 24. Lance is 28. He's leaving. Scott Young's 21. Timu's 24. Murphy's 21. Stewart is 20. These are the top 12 guys who played. Most of these guys are under 25. A lot of them are under 22. So that's just experience that's been gained throughout the season. I mean, it's a big step up to play at Super Rugby level, and you know these guys will get better as they play more games. Their defense will improve. Their judgment calls, their mental skills will improve as they get more experience under their belt. So I feel like some of these stats, especially the defensive ones, because there were too many times during the season where they would go behind and kind of switch off, and then they would get a lot of points put on them. If they can, get more experience, the young guys are less likely to kind of go into their shells when they're behind. I mean, obviously, highlights. They went on a 3-match winning run in weeks 3, 4, and 5. A couple at home and then one away to the Jaguares. Also, their home win against the Lions was pretty unexpected. That was 27 points to 22. But, I mean, the obvious lowlight is they were the first ones to get beaten by the Sunwolves, and boy, were they beaten 63 points to 28. So, yeah, that was a bit disconcerting. If they can turn some of these close losses they had into wins, that'll put them in a good position. I mean, they lost to the Stormers, the Hurricanes, and the Highlanders. 2 of those teams made the playoffs by less than 7 points. And again, just reduce those blowouts. So when they do go behind, not just letting the floodgates open, trying to, kind of bottle down and stick to it. Key players, I mean, Karevi is obviously one of their key men. He leads the comp in tackle busts. He was 6th, so he's only behind a handful of guys. But his defense is always an issue. He was 2nd overall for missed tackles average. So, yeah, they need to improve that aspect of the game. Parisi, he's 11th for offloads. So in a team which is his average per game, not total. So in a team which is not really renowned for its kind of playmaking, you still need a guy who's able to just every now and again let loose an offload and perhaps create some space for somebody. Like I said, they need a proper kicker. Lance is gone, so he was their main kicker this season. Stewart took a few kicks, their young first 5. He is pretty young and inexperienced. I'm not sure how he's going to go. He still needs to take a step up, that's for sure. But I think Brad sees him as the guy for the future. His kicking stats, he only took a handful of kicks, but 22%. He missed some pretty bad ones when he was taking the kicks. But then you got James Tuttle, who played 6 games at the start of the season and then for some reason fell out of favour, ended up playing club rugby, the young scrum half. He was kicking at 88%. They kind of went with Sorovi and McDermott towards the end of the season. Tuttle was way on the outer. Like I said, I don't know what he did. It seems to be that's the way with Brad. If you get on the wrong side of him, you're just put out into the cold, and it wasn't that long after he signed a new contract as well. So if you're going to play Stewart and he's not kicking, I feel like Tuttle is the man perhaps to go forward, at least with the boot, because as I said, if you're going to be getting penalties from scrum time and you're not always able to crack open the defence, you're going to need someone who's able to get points consistently. So yeah, that question about the first 5 is a big one. Obviously, Quade Cooper is sitting there playing club rugby as well. He's got another year on his contract. Carmichael Hunt's got another year on his contract. Those guys don't seem to be wanted. So whether they just sit playing club rugby for another year, it seems likely at this point. But those resources are available for Brad if he wants them. And that physical style they play, like I said, they were first equal for yellow cards. I know Brad is a big fan of kind of putting in some big hits, but it's something they're going to need to work on, because the way the game is going, you're just going to get getting yellow carded if you do that kind of thing. And as you get a reputation for it, I feel like the refs are going to be more likely to yellow card your players. So for next season, like I said, they need to work out who's going to be their 9-10 combination. They need somebody to unlock the backs, because they have got some very talented backs. I mean, Parisi is a magic player. Nabuli, I believe, is going overseas, but Dalgunu's good as well. There's some good players there, and if they can get a bit of ball and some space, they could perhaps balance out that monstrous forward pack with some exciting backs, but they need that 9-10 combination to kind of unlock everything. They got a fair few guys to re-sign. I mean, Tupou, Tui, Higginbotham, McDermott, Stewart, Paiawa, and Parisi are all on for 2019. But there's a whole lot of other young guys that still need contracts. A few other guys that got contracts that I didn't mention, but still a few guys to re-sign. I feel like those guys, I mean, they probably will re-sign. If you're a young guy who's been given your debut at Super Rugby level by Brad Thorn, and he seems to really inspire loyalty in the guys who play for him, hopefully they'll be able to get them all re-signed, because like I said, with a year's experience, they should come back better players for next year. So yeah, overall, despite finishing kind of third from bottom, I still feel like the Reds are on the right track. I'm hoping for more next season. I don't feel like next season's going to be the breakout season. Perhaps give it another year. There's still a lot of areas to really fix, but if they can get those right, they will at least make themselves very hard to beat for next year, and then perhaps the year after we'll see them kind of really pushing their way up the table. But it all remains to be seen. You guys let me know what you thought about the Reds season, and yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.